May the benefit of this act and all acts be dedicated unto the complete liberation and the supreme enlightenment of all beings everywhere, pervading space and time. So mote it be. May the benefits of practice, ours and others, come to fruition ultimately and immediately, and we remain in the state of presence. There are really so many people who I ought to be thanking tonight. So I'm going to keep my gratitudes brief and strictly local. All of y'all who you know that I should be thanking, I thank you. So first off, the students and faculty of the selection committee for granting me this tremendous honor. This is really an awesome honor in the true sense of the word. Brianne Scogan, the coordinator for the leadership programs here, who's been amazingly supportive. I put her through the paces in all sorts of ways, so I'm grateful. Carrie Edmondson, Liz Krolder, Joshua Robinson, obviously, and really, most especially, all of my student colleagues. You're the reason why I'm here, and well, I'm not gonna go there. A little bit of background: my father can't get through a speech without crying, and I come by it honestly, so I had to reel that one in. All right. So I have some confessions to make. I'm a fool for saying yes to this gig for all sorts of reasons, including but not limited to the fact that largely the reason why I was nominated for this tremendous honor is that I don't lecture. So I've been awarded with this tremendous lecture. So I'm kind of a fool for going and saying, yeah, sure, I'll speak in front of 250 people, and I'll put together a PowerPoint presentation. Wait, how do you do that? Where's the on button for this thing? But really, truly, I'm a fool in this sense, especially when I was asked if I wanted to go forward with this project. I said yes, and I took that step, and really, this is the mythic journey here. This is, it said discovery. You will represent discovery. It's like, okay, I guess I'll have to, take a leap off the cliff and see what happens. And really, truly, putting this presentation together has been an act of discovery for me because it is such a rare opportunity. I have another kind of confession to make, that there's going to be an excessive amount of text. And there's going to be a lot of rule breaking. In fact, I'm not really doing a presentation tonight. I'm really more doing a facilitated discovery. We're all going to be kind of working through this material together, which means that for a lot of the time, I'm going to be engaging the text as well. So I apologize for being stuck behind the podium for a good bit of the night. But back to our excessive text, I was told PowerPoint presentation, don't do too much text, and that's all there is here in a way tonight. So that bit's a little bit odd. So I want to start off with this notion that we live under the condition of a surplus of meaning. We live as humans in it really, in a lot of ways, a textual world. I mean, we're going to be engaging texts tonight, comic books, but a painting is a text, and movies are text. But come to find out that the more that we study the paranormal, the more that we are realizing the way that reality, in a lot of ways, functions like text. And so part of the excess of tonight will be to engage excessive texts or ones that go off the page or ones where we think we are understanding the text and we're on the page, and then we find something like you're reading a textbook and all of a sudden an animation comes on. Like, whoa, that's not supposed to happen. So we need to be interpreters. That's a big message here. And we're constantly in that activity. We're kind of constantly pursuing that endless reserve of meaning that's there for us. And when reality presents us something that we don't know how to interpret, the para meaning just outside, The paramedic is the medic who's not in the hospital or the doctor's office. And the super, the thing that goes beyond. And when we're confronted with those things, and after we get done lifting our jaw and putting it back up, we say, okay, what do I do with that? That was crazy. And hermeneutics is the process that we undergo. It's that process of interpretation, of discovery. It's kind of the cover of our expectations for the way that our world works. Then something presents itself, and we have that awful moment. Now it's a process of discovery, in a lot of ways of uncovering our assumptions and presuppositions about the way that this lived text ought to be working. So now our hypothesis here, and I said, kind of strap yourself in, because a lot of what we're working with here is it's both wonderful and it's fantastic, and some of it's just crazy, and I'm celebrating that. I'm not saying I want you to believe in the paranormal as much as I want you to engage the process of being a good interpreter and making some decisions about how far you're willing to go and admitting this surplus of meaning that's possible for us to engage. Jeff Kripal, he is in many ways the instigator for all this. He's the chair of the Religious Studies Department at Rice. And he has written a couple of really important books. Authors of the Impossible and Mutants and Mystics. Mutants and Mystics here being the backbone of a couple of my courses. So what he's trying to do as a historian of religions is to look at the fact that people all over the world, across time periods, report all sorts of paranormal and weirdo experiences. This in religious studies, this is not an astonishing fact. I mean, it's just, that's in a lot of ways, mystics are crazy people, They're people who are having experiences that are paranormal, and in the tradition that they're in, they're elevated as having discovered something really vital. But what Kripal wants to say is that the truth needs the trick. That quite often with the paranormal, we're having a brain problem because something is being presented to us that does not fit our categories. And so that creative side of us says, what if we tell the story this way? I had an alien encounter. So was it little green men, or was it experienced as an alien encounter because that was a way for that person to narrate that impossible experience, whatever it was, for themselves? The truth may need the trick in order to appear at all. I kind of think of it as, if you've got a person with an invisibility ring on and they can't get it off, in order to appear, they have to put clothes on. And they're going to pick up the clothes of the day. They're going to pick up the contemporary fashion, and they're still not going to fully appear, but they'll have clothes on from what's available to them culturally. In a lot of ways, that may be what's happening with expressions of the paranormal. So here's one of the big bits of text, but it's important. So let's just go ahead and read it. The Secret Life of a Superpower, by the way, is the original title for what became Mutants and Mystics. So he says that I'm especially interested in the manner in which certain seemingly universal human experiences, we might call those archetypal experiences, out-of-body flight, magical influence, telepathic communication, secret forms of identity, altered states of consciousness and energy, occupy a rather curious place in our present Western culture. And thank you for Fresno State for giving me an opportunity to somewhat normalize this weird stuff. Whereas such marvels are vociferously denied or simply ignored, not in this hall, in the halls of academic respectability, they are enthusiastically embraced in contemporary fiction, film, and fantasy. We're fascinated with such things and will pay billions of dollars for their special display, and yet we will not talk about them, not at least in any serious and sustained professional way. And that is changing, by the way. Popular culture is our mysticism. Think about that. The public realm is our esoteric realm. The paranormal is our secret in plain sight. Weird. It may be, ironically and fascinatingly, that it's actually a pop culture medium that's best for revealing this otherwise kind of hidden esoteric realm of experience and insight and knowledge. So maybe, like Poe's purloined letter, the letter that has been most well hidden is the letter that's right there on the wall, and it's so obvious and in plain sight that it's overlooked. It may be that that's what's going on with all these fantastic superheroes that we're seeing and all of these paranormal shows. It's really quite a phenomenon culturally. So in Mutants and Mystics, he says he wants to confront the impossible fact that many of the extraordinary capacities that science fiction stories and superhero comics treat as fantasies, again, some kind of cool abilities here, telepathy, precognition, psychokinetic or magical influence, subtle bodies and energies, cosmic unity and clairvoyance, to name the most common, are well-documented experiences in the history of folklore, religion, and psychical research. Again, that's not controversial at all. These things are real in the simple sense that they happen. Okay, that part is, again, people report having the experiences. The experience happens. Whether or not, levitation is actually possible is irrelevant in some ways to the fact that there are people who report these experiences. So, but what they mean is an entirely different issue. Now we're back in the realm of hermeneutics. What do they mean? How do we interpret this? What do you make of the fact that there are all these people who are having these alien encounters and they're having precognition and there are all of these crazy synchronicities? What do we make of that? Whether a particular reader finds this aspect of my argument convincing will depend largely on whether or not she or he has experienced such things. I decided that I would be coming out tonight. I've had them. In high school, I was leaning up against the wall on my bed one day, and so again, I'm leaning up against the wall, and I heard a voice behind me say, "No, you're Marcus Aurelius." And now it wasn't just that I thought that I heard something, because my immediate reaction was I looked behind me to find out impossibly who was that. I heard the voice. Now I was in high school and I didn't, who the hell is Marcus Aurelius? So I wrote it down, and this was, I'm dating myself here, but this was before the internet. So I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I went to my library with the card catalog, and I looked it up. And Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor and a very important Stoic philosopher who, it turns out, practiced philosophy as spiritual exercises. Now, I kind of forgot. I had the experience, and I sort of forgot about it, and I did not go about the business of knowing my Marcus Aurelius. But later, I did my PhD work largely in philosophy as spiritual exercises, and I remembered, oh shit, I'm knowing my Marcus Aurelius. I guess that voice, what was that? I'm still kind of, wow, I guess somehow that affected me. So we're really trying to have a thought experiment here about what are our impossibilities. They're possible impossibilities. They're, you know, maybe it's possible, but maybe it's not. But how do you draw that line? Now, the normal and the paranormal, and the ordinary and the extraordinary, the human and the superhuman, are mutually conditioning. In other words, I define the paranormal by what I consider to be normal, right? It's that thing that's beyond it. What's kind of cool about this is that a lot of times what's really truly normal is extraordinary, and the extraordinary thing becomes possible and normal. And you can think about this in terms of technology, and you know, again, I visited the card catalog to find out who Marcus Aurelius is, and I would not have thought that it would be possible for all of you to be looking up, you know, Wikipedia right now and checking out Marcus Aurelius's meditations, because it turns out that that's on the internet too. That was impossible. That was science fiction, but it's science fact now. So it's about drawing those boundaries. So now this is where I'm going to be doing a little bit more work here at the podium, but I rather than doing the presentation thing, I really just want to facilitate an engagement with these texts, okay? This is where we're all going to do a little bit of work together and discover together, kind of peel away some of the layers of this kind of sacred secular mythology that we have that tells us stories. Tonight we're gonna have creation stories. We're going to learn that humans are actually a failed experiment for aliens to create gods on another planet. They screwed up, and we were supposed to be gods, but we're human. So that's mythological, right? We're also going to, hopefully, if I play my cards right, we're all going to have an experience of the end of the world together. And that's facilitated, again, by our text. And we're going to learn that we are all the condensed thought of the divine. That we think that we're individuated meat suits with spirits, but we're actually condensed forms of divine imagination. JLA, Justice League of America. So we don't need a whole lot of backstory for this one, but here's our gods. I mean, it's very clearly that these are godlike beings. I mean, it's just right there. To downgrade them to anything less than godly is insulting to the JLA. And that is made really clear right at the beginning of the story here. So what we've got going on is that this spaceship on page 1 shows up at the White House. And it's a great big spaceship, and there are sun rays kind of shining down from the heavens, and there are doves flying. It's, you know, we have a heavenly encounter here, and the president says, oh shit, we better call the big guy. And so the big guy shows up. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you the full spread, because the book's meant to be read that way. But in order for it to be legible, we had to cut it up into pieces. Okay, so your mind, here's where it gets really trippy. Okay, your mind, when you're engaging a comic book, has to fill. This is called the gutter. Now, there's no linear process here. I mean, your eyes can go all over the page. You've already soaked up a tremendous amount of information, and you're already forming the story. But you're making a leap from this panel to this panel to this one to this one, okay? You're already telling the story. Because the story, this is empty space, folks. You're implicated in the narrative now. I love it. Guilty. Okay, so we're going to do little bits of panel, and we'll go through the story a little bit. So Superman can't check out what's inside the eggs because he's got the X-ray vision, but he can't be seen. So he's a little bit on edge too. Stand back. Don't panic. Now we've got the quintessential people of Earth. We're already on the mythological level because this thing, whatever it is, it's clear that it deserves to be heard by people of the Earth. So this is meant to be an impressive and also an edgy moment. Notice now when we flip back to the right-hand page, it's just one panel. This whole thing is meant to say, hello. Look at how big they are, you know. It's them. It's like, whoa, all right, we better contend with this. And now Protex here says that we've come to save the world. And of course, only a divine being could save the world such as it is, right? So now we're on to our next page. Lots of gutter. So you're doing a lot of filling in here. Here's Protex announcing himself. Now, this is the cool thing now. He's going to tell us a little story about his world. And it turns out that what happened with his world is happening with our world now. So contemporary mythology. The authors of this text are speaking to us by speaking about beings from other worlds. So they've been cruising around for a very, very long time, several million years. That's all. Again, we're in the God realm. So here it is. This little bit here is a narration. You can see that the bubble is different, and that's one way to tell that we're dealing with a different kind of situation. So their homeworld was destroyed by negligence and environmental catastrophe. Read global climate change, let's say. Okay, so now we've got the Flash. He's watching. And it turns out, we'll see on the other side of the page, all of the members of JLA are watching this announcement. So it must be very important. And he's getting chewed out by his partner for not having taken care of the dry cleaning. And then because he's the Flash, he zipped and he came back. So that's why he's still sitting there, because he got up and left. Also notice, Flash is a kind of a comedian. Here's Speed and Running Man. And so there's all of these kind of hidden little funny bits if you get to see the detail. So here's Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. So the Protex and this group are coming to repair the damage. They're gonna be our saviors. Alien Autopsy. This is Martian Manhunter, again, with the humor. So now here's the challenge to the local superhumans. Are you gonna step up? This is a classic example of the old gods versus the new gods. And what happens next is that the Hyper Clan, these kind of scary folks from another world, they start to engineer. They do the global engineering. So they go to the Sahara Desert and they produce rain, and trees start to grow, and it's kind of, we're headed for the Garden of Eden, and the Hyper Clan are responsible for saving all of the catastrophe that we've wrought upon this planet. So all of our mistakes, they're making up for. Fast forward, turns out that Protex and the Hyper Clan are really nasty folks. They're false gods, And they've really come here to dominate and control and colonize us. This is a main theme in paranormal literature, the idea that we could be colonized by superior beings. And really, that's a contemporary mythological telling of the tale of our increased awareness that we have colonized. And we have done nation building. I mean, it's, think Iraq and Afghanistan. The authors are speaking to us about, hey, what are we responsible for? This guy here, this nasty-looking creature, that's Protex. It turns out that these are white Martians from the same world that Martian Manhunter comes from, but they were exiled for being horrible people. You'll also notice that the situation here is really crazy. It's tough to read because the action is insane. So if you're having an agitated experience, it's because the situation is supposed to be agitating. And we've highlighted here, check this out. So we are a failed genetic experiment. They screwed up. We should have been gods, but we turned out to be humans. So it also kind of leads you to believe that maybe there are some humans out there where the DNA didn't snap. What would be possible then? So this is this is creation myth in comic books, you should start to have a little bit of brain melt here and just stuff it back in. So here's that panel. They were exiled, okay? They went into this still zone for a very long time, and they found out how to get back. They want the world back. So they're here as invaders. So here's where Superman, of course, is gonna man up, and here's the full view. Now we're headed to the right-hand side. You let those cringing human sheep do what they want when you could rule the world. So when we're looking at texts like this one, we are both the humans in the story and we're the superhumans. So we are Superman. We're meant to be considering the kinds of issues that Superman is considering because, in some ways, my father is a Superman to me. Those of you who are parents are probably, you have that kind of status for your children, and you're faced with some of these super person issues, So I love it. So the superhuman people here in this world, they could dominate and rule us. And Superman is fighting back this message that really all of us humans are cowering sheep, and we should be lorded over. It calls on our leaders in a book like this to be considering what does it mean to be a leader. Oh, and now they believe in me. Again, this kind of he acknowledges this sort of worship. Now, and the great news is that I believe in them. So this is where we see that the gods that we love as the Justice League, they love us back. A classic God is love kind of message. Now we're at the end of the book, and all of the HyperClan have been defeated, and check this out. All of that wonderfulness, that impossible, it was too good to be true, was too good to be true. And we don't get out of our environmental jam, the desert, by just having someone come along and make it all better. The Garden of Eden reference here, again, we're in mythological realm. It doesn't work that way, he says. And now Wonder Woman is again asking that deeply not only political, but very spiritual question. Where does that leave us? How much influence should we have over people who we could be controlling and influencing? Now he gives his answer that leaves us as readers still in the position of having to make our own decision. And again, we have this human evolution question that we're going to see again and again. We have a destiny. We could be great if we want to, folks. That's the message here. And it's up to us to make that happen and not to rely on crazy outsiders or superhumans to make that happen for us. And then this important question here, to catch them if they fall. A deeply religious message, really, that if we believe in them, they will catch us if we screw up, if we fall, if we are headed in the wrong direction. All we have to do is turn to them, and we know that they'll be there for us. And you also notice, look, they're all looking up. See, it's a transcendent message. That's a symbolic expression coded in the text. There to be there for us as doing hermeneutics to say, oh wow, yeah, that was an elevated message. So there's our full page. Kingdom come. Dun, dun, dun. It gets really serious now. It's not even coded anymore. These are gods. No doubt about it. That's Flash. He's clearly Mercury or Hermes. We're on Mark Waid and Alex Ross have created this environment where it's clear. The whole comic book now is about the fact that the superhumans have had offspring, and their offspring are kind of like demigods, and they're proliferating, and they're going nuts. They're doing whatever they want because they can, and the old fogey superhumans are kind of, they're tired of it. Superman is challenged by one of the newbies, and the public, the general human public, are infatuated with the new superhumans, the demigod ones, and they're flashier and cooler, and Superman has this kind of old fuddy-duddy moral code, and so now the humans in the story have kind of given up doing excellent things. They're not doing the Olympics, because why do that when there's we're puny, we're ordinary. So when we pop into the story here, what will have happened is that there has been this great big fight, and the superhumans are starting to destroy the world because they're just running amok. They're fighting because they can. They're not fighting evil. It's an amoral environment, and there has been this crisis where either all the superhumans or the regular humans there's going to be genocide. And Captain Marvel, who's a character who is both divine, he gets his powers from a divine magic source, and he's a little boy. So with Billy Batson, this little boy gets this power, and when he shouts Shazam, that's when his power comes on. He has had to make this ultimate decision, this judgment about who is wrong. Is it the regular humans or the superhumans? Somebody's gonna have to die here, completely. And unfortunate, Norman McKay here is a preacher who has kind of lost his way. He's lost his flock. People aren't going to church anymore because the gods are right here. And he has delivered sermons and realized that he's He's not serving his people anymore anyway. And the specter comes along who is responsible for issuing the judgment about the superhumans or the humans. Norman McKay is his conscience, because the specter doesn't have that, he doesn't have that ability anymore. Oddly, it turns out that a human is having to make this ultimate choice in a way. Okay, so that's where we're at in the story. Norman's outraged, and he's reeling at having to make this decision. Superman, having seen Captain Marvel make a decision, Captain Marvel basically intercepts this bomb that was gonna blow up all of the superhumans. He sacrificed himself. The divine human sacrificed himself. Again, it's a messianic theme. And Superman is really pissed off. We never get to see Superman like this, but he's lost his marbles. He's just so angry that the humans launched these bombs. They ultimately decided, let's kill off the super beings. Let's save ourselves. So this is the UN, and Superman has shown up, and he's going crazy. He's welded the doors, and he's bringing the house down on the people who made the decision to kill off the super beings, and that caused Captain Marvel to sacrifice himself. So we in a way, we thought it was over. We thought that the stalemate was over when Captain Marvel made this sacrifice, but Superman takes it to another level with his anger. So now we know that Superman is a god because even Satan would cower. Look how dark he is. He looks devilish. He looks like Lucifer, the light bringer, was a divine angel and lost his way and became a dark being, and now, whoa, he's got these red glowing eyes. And notice he's being humanized here. So and you'll notice also the whole situation is slanted, right? The whole situation is precarious. It's not these nice stable blocks anymore. The whole situation has gone sideways. So this Kansas Magog thing was when there was a horrible accident, when the demigod folks were going nuts, and it's really when Superman decides to kind of check out. So now we're getting to this God having to empathize with us. Again, it's kind of deeply mythological and human expression. And here is a human superpower: forgiveness. Forgive yourself. We all have that. So Norman is bearing witness. He's actually, in this moment now, Norman is drawing upon his very human, very superhuman resources to get this God to empathize. And it's right and wrong. It's Superman's morality. This human morality is going to be the thing that perhaps saves the day. And if he wants redemption, he has to make the right choice. So now we find out that there were survivors from the Great Blast that killed Captain Marvel, and we have to figure out what's going to happen next. What are we going to move on, or is there going to be forgiveness, self-forgiveness, or not? This is Batman. He's got his crown, his the divine crown. This is Green Lantern. It's just they're so impressive, right? These are gods clearly. So we're back in the stalemate, the same situation. We're in a different environment now. Now the judgment has to be made again. And Superman gets to his morality. They're taking their crowns off. So we have a situation where the gods are stepping down. We're going to solve the problems with you, not by ruling above you, by living among you. Okay, we're getting the idea that the gods live among us here. That's the take home. And they're not going to impose their power. This is Captain Marvel's cape that came off when he made his fateful decision. So Superman, I asked him to choose between humans and superhumans, but he alone knew that was a false division. How do you like that for a message? There isn't a division between normal humans and the gods. He chose life. One world. It's really, so the mythology here is that the division between this hierarchy has in a lot of ways has crunched down. So the gods are living among us is the message, and we have the opportunity to work with them. Okay, so here is where we're going to have to be kind of quick about this, but the brain melting will commence almost for sure. So Promethea is a series of graphic novels written by Alan Moore, who wrote Watchmen, a very famous book. Promethea is actually the Western occult knowledge and spiritual transformation tradition in comic book form, with the main character being a female feminist college student named Sophie Bangs. And it turns out that there is this spirit named Promethea who's really a goddess, who was born out of partly the imagination of a little girl who had an encounter with the dual god Thoth Hermes, hermeneutics Hermes, the god of the crossroads, or the interaction between this world and the next world. And basically this girl stepped into the other realm, the spirit world, and became this goddess of wisdom. Okay, so the setting here is that it's Armageddon. Judgment Day is upon us. This whole series of events through the graphic novels has come to pass. Oh, spoiler alert for my students, sorry. The whole world is coming to an end, and people are having the experience of Armageddon. Now, the physical world is not changing, but our perception is of the end of the world. Religious experience is real experience. What is unreal about that experience? So the situation is all humanity is starting to have this. They're experiencing gods and things cruising around. Dead people are coming back and talking to them, and Now, what we have is you as the reader are now meeting Promethea. We are now meeting Promethea. We're, as the reader, we're written into the story. The writer meant for us as the reader to meet Promethea, and here she is, and she's going to talk to us, and we're going to interact with her. So you're meant to be putting yourself in the shoes of the person who comes to sit and meet with Promethea. This artwork also, this kind of hyper fantasized artwork, is really in contrast with what comes before it, which is much more like JLA, where it's bright colors and stuff. So it's really clear we've entered another realm here. This is all a story, something I'm dreaming or reading. Yes, we're reading it right now. Right now, we're with Promethea, and she's telling us things. Isn't having a dream or reading a book a real experience? We're all having a real experience right now with Promethea, if we want to. More has set up a situation in which we can have this experience, and we can have that kind of spiritual transformation that's about to occur, moving from kind of this reality to a whole new world being created. That's kind of the backstory for what's occurring for us now. So we're saying, yeah, but this is just my subconscious talking. That I'm just making all this shit up, right? It's fantasy. I'm making it up. This isn't real. It's a comic book. Now listen to me. Prometheus fiction, sure. But so what? The idea of the human imagination. She's the embodiment of our capacity to imagine. And what we can imagine, we can experience. We're doing it right now. The clothes you're wearing, the room, the house, the city that you're in. There are structures that are in the world that exist right now because my wife, Jihi, imagined them that way. She imagined them that it was just the fantasy until it wasn't anymore. It got built. So we're this wonderful little twist of amino acids. We're this DNA. We're this physical stuff. But in a way, that's just a frame for how we understand ourselves. Now we have an opportunity to understand ourselves differently. And she's going to tell this grand and glorious tale. Now here's the full spread, and it is meant to be like, whoa. It's momentous. It's look at this. This is the spinning of the cosmos. This is all the stars, the constellations, it's all coming together. And she's going to tell us, she's going to take us from the Big Bang to where we are now. Our whole universe is an impossible possibility. The Big Bang, all light, and it was just energy, and here we are, living and breathing. Why should we have consciousness? Why should we feel? Why should we breathe? I mean, we are all space-time sensory organs. We're consciousness individuated. Now she's making the time that we're in now and the ancient times and the future are all together. It's all happening coincidentally. We think of the past as the past, but it's not really. And now we have this beautiful world with cities. And life is getting more complex and it's organizing itself. And we have weird things like lungfish. Like, what's that about? All of it is what's that about. It's a miracle, this life that we have, this earth, these cities. This astounding tumble into being. We are a bizarre chemical works. We're an odd sort of experiment in physics. Everything is universe. Everything is holy, life and consciousness, creation's rarest embers, our caduceus DNA, that kind of spiral snake that is our genetic material, is implicated in this bizarre evolution. And we're all life snakes. We all have this caduceus DNA stuff that builds us, that makes us who we are. It's all eternal. So now we're facing the gods. The gods are among us. So the gods aren't actually gods. They're not something that's separate that existed. It turns out that the gods have emerged from us. They're co-continuous with us. All is deity. This beautiful, undying fire of being that's everywhere about us, that we are. We are this divinity. Respect yourself, respect the least phenomenon of your existence as if it were the breath of God. Our universe is all one place, a single firelit room, all time, a single moment. Know that there has only ever been one person here. Know you are everything forever. So I wanted to have that experience for you because it's an opportunity through comics for us to explore what's possible. And if nothing else, to experience what's possible through the fantastic, to see the gods among us, and for us to think of ourselves both as these kind of puny human things, these weird kind of meat suit things, but also potentially very spiritual, because we all have these superhuman capacities, and they're boring everyday capacities like love. What's more powerful than that? What's more powerful than forgiveness? If I could have flight right now, but I'd have to give up my capacity for love, screw flight. Love is such a better superpower than flight, and I've got that. You've got that. And it's in our contemporary culture that these great beings, this is us. This is our capacity reflected back to us in a pop cultural medium that just so happens to be fun and entertaining and cool. But it also is this philosophy and this religious imagination that we're encountering through the book, through the text. And we very clearly badly want it because it's all over the place in the movies and in shows. So we're in a moment now in our history where we seem to be becoming more and more preoccupied with what are we supposed to be doing with this life that we have. We could go to superhero Mardi Gras. Isn't that peculiar? Check that out. She's got the power of the atom there. We've even got Super Chihuahua. We want to be super, don't we? So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm just so happy to have been able to facilitate an experience for you. If I had one hope that would come out of your experience here, would be that you would leave here and you would go and explore the surplus of meaning that this life world offers to you. Go out and do your hermeneutics. Go out and figure out for yourself, where do I draw that line between what I'm capable and what I'm not capable of? We got the Olympics. The gods are among us. It's happening right now. They're doing crazy things, and we're telling crazy stories about them to make them seem even more godlike. It's happening right now. Thank you so much.